It's time to crown a champion in the Masters Open Division at the 2024 World Flying Disc Federation World Masters Ultimate Championships. We're in beautiful Irvine, California, the Great Park Soccer Complex for a heavyweight battle. Right now, the US, Canada, both teams with identical records. Both teams getting to the finals relatively easily here. So we're set up for an exciting battle. Theo Wan here with Andy Maroney. Andy, people were looking forward to this before the week even started. Canada, US, what are you expecting?
Look, I think we saw in the pool play a really close game. Both teams probably holding a couple of cards back in their deck, so I think it's going to be a really exciting game with a few surprises.
And that's the thing, you mentioned this, they played against each other, so they've seen each other already. A couple of players didn't play in that first matchup, and they'll be in the lineup in this one. So certainly some cards to the vest, as you mentioned. But speaking of cards to the vest, I mean, the Canadians know who they need to stop. That's Joey Cretella.
Yeah, Cretella, I mean, looking at that stat line, 14 goals, 9 assists. He has been playing downfield a lot, has been a real threat, real handful to handle. Going deep, going under, throwing a lot of goals, catching a lot of goals. He's really going to be the main focal point of that offense.
Kind of the heartbeat of that team is Joey Cretella, having played Ring of Fire in the past, and certainly a lot of those players having those Raleigh Ring of Fire connections. And we take a look at the U.S. dispatching Japan in their semifinal here. And on the other side, the Canadians got their own big-time cutter. That's Mario Zlatic, who's had a great tournament so far, leading the team total with 31 points, and was told before the game he's going to play both ways as well. Certainly both of those players you're going to see on the field throughout this contest. Zlatic, someone who can go deep, can also shoot. It's kind of similar to Cretella, two cutters that have a similar profile.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, as you say, these teams have done the homework on each other. You know, they know what the threats are. Yes, I think we'll see a few surprises, but the focal points of both offenses are pretty well known.
Andy, you had a chance to play both of these teams at this tournament. That's a spoiler for the fans at home. Andy playing on the Australian team. So what did you kind of take away from those two separate matchups?
Yeah, we had a really close game against Canada. That went to Universe. We had the disc as well, so time over again, it would have been nice. But no, Canada, I think, have built throughout the tournament. I think they're getting better as they go. And
looking at the Canadian lineup on the right side of your screen, that's their D-line. There's a lot of D-line stalwarts out there, led by David Hohalter, big-time handler for them. And on offense, we see a couple names that we want to highlight, specifically Alan Laviolette, number 10 for the U.S. He did not suit up in their first matchup, resting an injury, but he's here now.
And I don't think you could ask for better conditions for Ultimate. Dead still, 59 Fahrenheit. Not a cloud in the sky, not a lick of wind. Beautiful game, beautiful day for a beautiful game.
Fans out in full force here, rocking the American flags. There's some Canadian fans out there as well, and certainly fans both at home watching. We thank you for doing so, joining us for the first of 3 finals. And both teams came up real early to the fields. I saw them, I was here an hour before or even more, and both teams were there getting ready, dialing in, and especially with the throws, the stadium wind can play a little bit of tricks.
Yeah, it can. It is inset a little bit, so I think it's almost a case of it being more still down here than it is up on those top fields. So I expect there to be a lot of pinpoint precision throwing, not a lick of wind to speak of.
Yesterday was the windiest day of the tournament, and that caused some different strategic choices for teams in the semifinals.
For sure, yeah. I think that was the windiest day we've had of the tournament. That definitely changed the outcome of a few games. But so far today, I think we're in for a pretty neat one there.
Michigan State product David Hohalter with the pole, and we're underway here. Game to 15, a champion to be crowned. Noah Saul with the disc in the middle of the field, marked by Dag, Felix Antoine Dag. Played some offense, but going to be playing defense in this game. Cretella was hovering underneath, but it's going to be brought into this close side to Laviolette. Laviolette, big-time cutter, can shoot it, can come underneath, can go deep as well. Brian Casey with it now. He's saying to Saul Dag, almost got there. Dave Snoke, number 18, also someone who didn't play in that first matchup that will feature heavily in this offense. Left-hand snag from Evan Howie. Looking for a Cortella, but some miscommunication and a turnover.
They're going to run quick here.
They are doing just that. Hohalter looking at the end zone for Jackie Howe. Jackie Howe reels it in. If you're the Canadians, that's the dream start you want. A short field turnover, and then you huck it right away for the goal. Hohalter finding Howe.
The run and gun on the turn from Team Canada puts in the first break of the game. And the US just, I don't know if it's day 6 legs, day 7 legs, but just a little bit static there. I mean, they got a couple of flow passes, but it was really out the break side. Not a lot of really definitive primary cuts.
Cortella back out on the field. You expect that. This offensive line has been seasoned, playing together on the club team Boneyard, based out of Raleigh, North Carolina, or the North Carolina area, the Triangle area. Let's take a look at what happened here.
Yeah, so you see a zig when you should have zagged. I mean, it happens, but also I think prior to that, as we watched the run and gun, 2-on-1, but always to the thrower's advantage. When you see fewer cuts, you feel a little bit more pressure to throw to them. The ones that you do get, it's not like you've kind of got 2 or 3 easy open options. So Team Canada stamping their authority, their D-line. That's exactly what you want. 1-0. The US have to regroup.
Yeah, we got an Aussie in the booth, so I got to say nil. You're right. I'm not used to that. I usually say 1-0.
Thank you for translating. You're going to need to keep doing that.
I will. Saul has Cortella going deep. Ellis was in coverage. Instead, it's going to be underneath cut. Similar O-line here for the US. Josh Berkowitz now with the disc. Chapel Hill product.
One going deep.
Bowen, you're right, had Inselman going deep, but instead it's a reset to Saul. Laviolette escaping the pressure of Andrew Carroll. Laviolette gonna open up the arm here. Looking for Bowen, but another turnover from the Americans.
Yeah, and almost an overcorrection from the US there. Felt like there weren't enough cuts going at the start, and then on this reset, 2 or 3 going. They were generating deep, but overthrown on that one.
Looking like a lot of newer pieces on this Canadian defensive line. They can interchange a few of them. Cam Burden on the field, number 22 in red. He was also not in action in the first game. Looking for Ellis. Can Greg Ellis get there? He does. As Kevin J coming behind him as the stall count climbs over to Remy Ojo. Ojo had a great sky in that first matchup with the US, getting on the highlight reel. Carroll. But there's a pick. Carroll marked by Laviolette. Reset to Burden. See US trying to switch with those handlers here. Burden has Ellis free, but is going to find another target instead. That's Pierre Dague, and it's 2-0 Canada, a dream start for the team from the Great White North.
And as you say, Canada dream start, 2 breaks to start the game. The US offensive line barely been broken this tournament, and already we have 2 breaks on the board.
Question here, Andy, is the U.S. going to run that same offensive line a 3rd time now after being broken twice?
Well, I think the benefit you got, just as we watch this huck, perfect cut, but the overthrow, that gets the turn. And then this huck into space, out in the break side. If you're a handler looking about where you're going to put it, that's the space. That's almost where you throw your thrower into it. So much space. The cut was down the sideline, went into the middle. And Theo, I mean, as we watch the goal, you ask the question, do you play that a 3rd time? I'm not a big fan of like sending your O-line out there just to get gutted, right? But they were short points. That turn came probably within the first 7 passes. Then you saw a huck and a little bit of red zone offense, but it was a goal. Then they haven't been gutsing it out. So if you're changing it, it's because something's not working.
They have Cretella out on the field and Howie, who are some O-line pieces, but Delrico Johnson crossing over, as well as Tristan Green, number 34. Brett Matsuka, a big-time handler, also out on the field.
Yeah, Bretty spent a few years in Australia as well. Played with him at a World Clubs. I'm too old to remember what year that was. The one in
He's
Prague.
been on a lot of teams, Brett Matsuka. He's been around.
He gets around, doesn't he? Yeah.
Played with Condors recently. Been on.
Did he?
Yeah, he's been on a lot of teams, so we'll list those throughout the broadcast. Bravo, Condors, Temper as well. Tristan Green now, product of North Carolina Dark Side, finding Howie. How is the U.S. O-line going to respond? That is the question here on this point. Certainly if you can bring it down to one here, a laser hawk from Green is knocked down by Zlatic. Mentioned Zlatic going to play both ways. You see that right there. Hohalter now. He thought about the crossfield flick.
They're going to poach out wide. Covered down by Brady.
That was Lahotsky who was poached, you're right. Lamb finding Hohalter. Hohalter working quickly, but a layout block. Looked like the turf monster got Lahotsky there. And then one turnover deserves another.
Wow.
This is not the start the Americans wanted. Matsuka getting the block, but then throwing it away, and then two behind Zlatic, so perhaps the nerves of the big lights here in the finals. I know it's quite sunny, but you know what I mean, the stadium.
Yeah, I think fatigue as well playing a role, as we see the US now past halfway. Simply must put this in.
You're absolutely right. This would be a momentum killer if they get broken, especially with the multiple turnovers and the gift that Canada just gave them.
Yeah, gifts both ways, really. I saw 3 turns in about 5 throws. Very uncharacteristic of both teams.
Green getting the pass from Johnson. Johnson has a double-double already. 13 assists, 13 goals, so if he can get involved. Rocking the green gloves for this one. Howie, close sideline. Has Johnson now. Johnson wearing a different pair of gloves than what I saw before. The foul is called. Going with the white gloves this time. Green. Up the line, finding Josh Hartzog. A much needed hold for the Americans.
Yeah, and it was kind of danger signs for the US. Down 2 breaks in their red zone. Within their defensive brick mark, but Canada unable to convert their 3rd break. US get on the board a little bit later than they would have liked. But that first arc, really never a chance. Front of the stack. We've seen a few turns that were just in front of a player, but they had half a sniff. That one, never a chance for anyone. As we see Brady getting it back. And I don't know if it's an Australian thing, but we talk about the conservation of greatness.
Oh, that's in North America too. We hear that. Okay. And Matsuka had that right there. He got the block, but then he threw it away.
Yeah, some sloppy turns. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't have minded them throwing that in our game, but anyway.
I hear what you're saying, Andy, as we get a look at some of the fans out here, USA jerseys, members of the women's team, they're going to be in action later.
Now our first look at Canada's O-line. They've had it all their own way. This one will be close. It might be going out just in bounds.
Longtime center handler for Goat, Toronto Goat. Thompson McKnight with it.
They got one off the back.
Carroll was free, but they hit Sang on the under instead. Tim Sang over to Mike Lee. Lee back to the aforementioned Sang. Now Joel Bellavance. Has Loach coming down the open side, but there's a call between or with Green and Bellavance. Johnson back out on this point as well. So U.S. going to run a tighter bench. They told us that before the game. Certainly we're seeing that early. Matsuka guarding McKnight. Lee working against Shane Cisco now as it is in the hands of McKnight. Continuing to the break side as Lee finds Zlatic. Zlatic is 10th goal of the tournament.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be thrilled if I was the US, to be honest, with that D look. Sometimes it's hard when your O-line gets broken twice in a row. You've got to get into the game. As you say, they're running tighter lines, so you don't know how many points you're going to see. There's no real pressure on any of those throws. You really need, especially 2 breaks down, you need to enforce some pressure, make a statement, get Canada's O-line thinking that this is going to be a tussle. It wasn't that point.
Canadian women's team going to take on the U.S. and they're pumping the arms right now. They see themselves on the screen.
Who's you picking that game, Theo?
You know, I'm going to be like Kirk Herbstreit on College Game Day. If I call a game, I'm not going to predict it publicly, so that's going to be my choice there. Andy, you're not on the call, so you can make a prediction.
I like Canada, yeah. I like Canada. All
right, they won handily in their first matchup, but both teams definitely hiding some cards and kind of similar to this matchup where in this format with 10 teams are able to, at least in the open division, they're able to play the same team over again. Throw going up, looking for Michael Pannoni, but Howe is up to the task, going up large, drawing some gas from his teammates.
Great read.
Took the inside lane and got that one. Jeff Bomber Powell now. As it is knocked away by Jared Inselman.
I was watching it. I think my fingers were still on it. I hadn't finished my follow-through.
I think it came out of your hand. I'm quite confident.
I don't think it was quite out of my hand.
I think as a good advisor here, I think it was out of your hand. I disagree, but I
don't think we'll resolve it there because
I'd like to go to you on that. I think it was.
You want to get my perspective?
Yes, I think it
left. From my perspective, on this didn't left the hand before the cut.
Okay, that's it. Okay, just good discussion.
Oh, now it is.
Back in the action here, Powell. Big fake on Inselman. Finding a reset to Burden. Powell again, power position. No one going deep though for Canada until Mensah goes. Degg. Popped up throw, but saved by Carson Turner.
Stack's still quite deep, hasn't adjusted to that behind.
Morgan Hibbert. He can throw left, he can throw right. Gotta watch what foot he establishes the pivot with.
US running a lot of switches downfield, a lot of handoffs.
Big bid, empty though for the US. That was Pannoni. Powell with it. See a few cuts happening. No one moving now for Canada. Good communication as Felix Antoine Degg zipping it into Hibbert. Hibbert had Turner. Turner drew 2 defenders. Mensah now.
Ready, Joey?
Looking for a reset. Finding Degg. Degg going across the field looking for Turner.
Get it high!
Turner has it with 2 hands, but then he muffs it in the end zone. That drew a gasp from you, Andy, because you were thinking it was a sure goal.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just an element of hearing the footsteps coming. He knew his US defender was coming in. But that's just, that's cold drop territory, unfortunately.
And you mentioned before the gift, right? They got a gift earlier with, the Canada gave them a gift, right? A throw behind Zlatic. And so the US were able to punish that and get a hold. That was their first and only point of the game so far. Pannoni heading into the deep space, but no throw going up. Laviolette. His huck for Jared Bowen earlier was a little too far, going left to right on your screen. Laviolette once again. Pannoni a little too far into the deep space, so no throw coming up. Cretella, Laviolette out on the move, just non-stop energy from number 10 right now. And he pops it into Inselman, but perhaps too low, and Inselman can't get it. So a couple of drops from both sides here.
Yeah, real shame for the US there. That was probably their, as we see a timeout called, that was probably their smoothest offense of the lot, of the game so far. Really punishing that break side, particularly the inside break. So a real shame for the US there, and Canada now with the chance to put in another break early in this game.
Felix Antoine Day calling a timeout. I think that's a smart one with a couple turnovers from both sides.
I agree.
As we take a look, we got to talk about the path and how they got here. Canada was in tight early with Great Britain, but then were able to ride it out for the 14-8 victory. They surrendered to Callahan that actually bobbled off the chest, and Great Britain caught it. So they were able to ward off that bad mojo to then eventually take the victory here.
Yeah, that Callahan was nuts. The defender was actually in a horrible position, but got rewarded for it because it came off your man's chest straight into his defender. As we see the US getting it done pretty easily over Japan, who were gallant, but the matchup just not really to their advantage. US really using their height, their strength. It was close early, but as the US tends to do, one
Josh
of the highlights
Hartzog.
there.
Yeah. 15-7 the final scoreline there as they celebrate their ticket to the finals. That was Jeff Loper-Fido in celebration. But hey, nothing to celebrate right now if you're the Americans. You are down 3-1, and you might get broken for a third time. So they really got to ratchet up with their defense on the O-line.
Yeah, and you asked the question earlier about, do you change that O-line if they get broken this time? And it's an if. You got to start thinking about plan B, plan C.
Certainly your plan A is your normal offensive line who's gotten done throughout this tournament, as you mentioned, being broken very few times. But it's a different pressure in the finals, and we're seeing it right now. Burden finding Zlatic. Zlatic has Dag going deep. Faked out Johnson. And now he's a little frustrated. No cuts happening. We're seeing Canadians get unders, but no one really going deep, Andy.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if that was a deliberate call just to protect. We see one go deep into the end zone. It's going to be a greatest.
For Mensah. Mensah trying to go for the greatest. You mentioned that, and unfortunately too far. So perhaps you're right. They are trying to work the unders.
And probably worked until that point. And the US, another let off. I mean, you talk about chances in the game, and yes, the US dropped their shot into the end zone. But we saw one cold drop, another one just out the back. So, I think we're in for an exciting game, showing that both teams are going to get cracks at this. As we see the US running two handlers out, vert stack. Canada mostly under, except the last back.
A great switch from Zlatic and Powell, stopping any static play. Saul power position. Has Johnson working against Burden, but instead it's a reset to Inselman. Inselman around to Snoke.
Great break.
It opens up the field, but nothing vertical. They've been working more laterally here. Around to Laviolette. Johnson getting free after his teammate drew two defenders in the deep space. I want to see Noah Saul take over a little bit here as their big-time handler behind the disc. He has the ability to go every other. Cretella finding Johnson has to slide in for the catch. Lefty reset back to Cretella, and they're trying to work that side of the field, but Zlatic denies it. Layout block from number 14. He's our player to watch. You see why right there. He can do it defensively as well.
Huge block from Zlatic. Lifting the team. Real chance for TC now.
They've had trouble catching into that kind of right side of the field. Are they going to attack that part again? There is a foul called between Inselman and Zlatic. Getting tangled up. 14 and 11. See Pannoni on the mark trying to will his teammates to get this block. Clapping. Howe. Nice little scoop cut from Zlatic. Front corner now. Going with a little blade look. And it works out for Canada, finding Dag, and it's 4-1.
Zlatic involved in everything. Huge block. Throwing the goal. As you say, willing the team. An enormous chance. 4-1. The Canadians have absolutely jumped the US, and I think they want to talk it over. We do have a timeout called, Theo.
US calling a timeout here, and certainly I think they need one right now. We saw the drop there from Inselman. I mean, Canada gave them some gifts too, to be sure, but Zlatic says, hey, I'm going to just take this away from you, and then I'm going to throw the assist with some vision on the throw.
Yeah, and don't underestimate, like from an energy perspective, we saw cold drops, right? And that's good. That energizes your defense, whatever. Getting a big D, that's a big lifter for the team. And not just a D, but a layout D. That's something to lift the team, and I'm not surprised that the US want to talk it over.
US searching for answers here as they're down 4-1. Both teams know what's on the line, and they're going to give you some layouts, putting their bodies to the turf, making plays. That was Matsuka from the US and then Zlatic from Canada. It's 4-1 right now for the Canadians, and the US just calling a timeout, Andy. Certainly needed at this juncture of the game.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it. At what point do you go to your, as we see an offside, it won't be called. At what point do you go to your plan B, plan C? And I think it's almost that time for the US.
And it looks like it too, because they have Matsuka out on the field as a handler. He mostly starts on the D line throughout this tournament, or has been traditionally. Matsuka out on the move. No one going deep though. They are pushing the stack back, but no continuation cut. Around to Brian Casey. And Casey will have it once again.
Pretty stagnant in the stack. One goes deep, but really most of the movement coming through the handlers or the break side.
Cortella has Matsuka coming underneath, looks him off. Back into the hands of Cortella. Casey coming out. Working against Bryce Ring. Inside throw, finding Berkowitz. Berkowitz, couple fakes, now open side pass to Casey. Going up the line, little give and go. 32, receiving the pass from 22 there, as the US gets their second point of the game.
Yeah, I mean, to say they needed that would be an understatement. Real stabilizing point. And Theo, I must say, look, they scored the goal, but looking very stagnant in that midfield. Not a lot of cuts coming, but they found a way to get it done. They're really punishing the break side. That's where they're getting most of their flow.
You get a good look at the public address announcer, Derek Delmar. He's had a great tournament. He brings a lot of energy right now. Steve Elkins on the music as well, bringing the hype, as Mobamba playing in the background in this final.
Yeah, I've been digging the music. We don't get that where we're from. Maybe someone's got a little UE boom or something, but
A
no,
little
the
Bluetooth
vibe.
speaker,
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
the stadium speakers though. We got.
No, excellent vibe as we see a lot of teams now filing in, starting to arrive at the fields. And they're being treated to a great one, Theo. 2-4.
I like the stands are starting to fill up too. We see some also on our close sideline. Fans on both sides of the field. One is shaded, one is not. So the teams that want to maybe take in some of the sunshine sitting on the far side. This is only the second offensive point for the Canadians. They had a clean hold the first time. JJ Edwards going deep. Pick is called though. Ellis working against Matt Wilson, Swilson as he's known. Matsuka back out on the field again. So they're playing him a lot. Edwards finding Aaron Loach. Tim Sang now has Lee, but gonna hold on to it right now in the flick grip. 2 players there. There's gonna be a pick called.
JJ, you have yards, man. Angle to square. Angle. Square. Square.
Ellis plays in Ottawa now and throwing that one up to Sang. No one there to cover that one. So a second offensive point, second clean hold for the Canadians.
Yeah, and that was the perfect cut. Canada were actually all really, there was no real stack. They were all in line with the disc, so it had to be handler generated because there was no one from downfield cutting to that front cone. You did see the US almost 2 or 3 players around it, but unable to stop a really powerful up the line dump cut. We'll just see it here. There was one out, and the US 3 players around it, all kind of looking at each other. Lovely throw into space, towed the line. As we see players filing in for either their final game or Theo, like us, just here as spectators, appreciators of the game.
Appreciators of the game, appreciators of the music, appreciators of the venue. What a beautiful spot to be at here in California. Depending where you're from, you might have some cold weather. Certainly those from Canada experiencing that, depending on where you are. So it's a welcome change to be on the sunshine. What's it like in Australia right now? What season?
It's getting better. It's almost like this, but no, I wouldn't trade it for anything right now. It's been a beautiful week in the Orange County.
Inselman resetting to Snoke here. Last time out, they did get a clean hold. It did take a few more passes than maybe they would have liked, but they were able to not have a turnover. Powell almost there from Inselman.
Nice bid.
Safe bid there, no contact made, and the U.S. will be back on the run. Great cut from Saul to shake free of Dag. Howie. Slow to get to the mark was Howe. Now it's Bowen. Bowen! Missed throw to Snoke. Had Snoke. Maybe if he took an extra second, but a red zone turnover from the U.S. again.
Yeah, and Canada were, I think, changing. Either it was a blown force or they were changing up their force. At one point it was home, then it was away. So trying to discombobulate the Americans there, and I think it worked.
Powell thought about the throw to Turner, but hey, he wants to hold on to it. And he knows this is a great opportunity for Canada to get another break in their 6th point of the contest. Hibbert finding Burden. Couple Canadian players are there. It's a scooper instead to Mensah. Mensah has Hibbert free. This throw's gonna hang though and be caught by Hibbert. And he'll lefty it over to Mensah, who celebrates for the score. Canada having fun right now.
Canada, another break. The US simply not good enough on that defense. There's an element of, like, they run switches, right? But you can either give a switch or take a switch, right? You don't want to be giving off the switches. You need to take it from your teammate rather than going, you know what, that's going to be someone else's problem. Too many times on that offensive possession, Canada had 2 or 3 coming in. As we watch the turnover just thrown behind. Perhaps end zone eyes a little bit. This one half a speculator, but still to the advantage.
When Mensah watches his back, he might want that throw. But hey, it works out. He's going to celebrate regardless there. And it's worth noting, some countries, the way they send their delegation is a tryout. So yes. Canada has that West Coast, East Coast tryout. The U.S. is a club team-based system, at least at this level. So, which is kind of the older school way of developing a national team. And so this is Boneyard, the champions from 2023, the North Carolina-based team. They actually lost to Voltron, 2020, based out of the Northwest in Seattle in the final this year. But they have the chance to represent their country here. So 2 different philosophies. Australia, I believe there's a trial process as well, correct?
Yeah, correct. I think majority of countries, they do run that that tryouts, but the US still in a couple of divisions running the kind of best club.
Used to be like that, but at the senior level, certainly now they have tryouts at the U24 and U20 levels as well. Cretella bumped on the mark by Hohalter.
Yeah, it's that old school champion team versus team of champions debate that, right now you'd have to say Canadians are winning.
They were victorious in the Grandmasters final, yesterday. Grandmaster Open. Hartzog fighting Casey, staying in bounds. Cretella.
Nice bid.
Empty though. From Lahotsky as Snoke with it, and he was faking the hammer, but now he'll just hold on to the disc.
Big call.
I think they're going to play Matsuka on the O-line now. And who's that for? Matsuka and Johnson, unsure. Either way, it's going to be a turnover. So things really starting to unravel for the Americans here, Andy. Some miscommunication. We saw that going left to right, now right to left on our screens. What's going on?
Yeah, it feels too pressured. There just is a lot of, we said big, I don't think that'll be a foul. Uncontested. Just looks a little stagnant, which I think is forcing that pressure, maybe the feeling to throw something that if they were getting a lot of cuts wouldn't otherwise come.
Nathan Lamb finding Andrew Carroll. Reset to Bryce Ring. Pick is called. Can't see it on your screen right now, but Ojo just pointing into the skies. Ojo saying, just send it to me deep. Instead, it's under to Carroll. Ojo will get the under. Good heads-up play from number 12.
Yeah, and I think if you're Canada, you don't need to send it deep. Think about time on the pitch for Canada's O-line, for the US O-line. They don't want to be playing defense right now. Just there's almost an element of doing them slowly. You know what I mean?
Death by 1,000 cuts 100%. Is what they say. That throw was batted, but still caught by Pierre Dague. And then trying to go with that crossfield. You said maybe they should have worked it more under. Matsuka gets a block, a second one of the game.
So the turn will stand. I think there's just an injury. So teams will roll some subs.
Matt Wilson coming off the field, and they're going to bring in Alan Laviolette. And then Canada's going to bring in Tim Sang and taking out Bryce Ring. So you're allowed to do that in the whiff diff rules. Curious they didn't have Laviolette to start this point anyways, but now they have him back out on offense, so no harm, no foul there.
All's well that ends well. As we see Brady Mitsuka taps it in.
Patel underneath. 2 players going in the deep space for the U.S. Laviolette is going deep, drawing 2 defenders. The U.S. quick to identify and working it laterally now. Hartzog looking to the end zone for Matsuka. Matsuka will get the bookends there. Getting U.S. their 3rd point.
And you talked about Matsuka playing a lot of points, but you can see why, getting it done on both sides of the disc. Brady so often around the disc, but also can be that deep threat. You've got to respect him wherever he goes on the field. He's willing his team back into this, but they are still in a 6-3 hole. See that first turn again. The thing that I'd be dirty about if I was the United States is that they're not taking the disc off here. There are a couple of good bids there, like Zlatic, but most of the turnovers have just been like either cold drops or throws behind or throws to no one. So the US, they need to clean that up. But there, what would you do if you were their D-line? They've only seen limited points, but you've got to say on the points that they have played, they've not really fired a shot.
Well, they mentioned before the game, talking with Jared Mullen, Josh Mullen, one of their captains. They said that they were kind of vanilla in their approach in that first matchup. They're going to have some zones and other defenses they want to bring out. Perhaps this is the time to maybe frustrate things here as we see head coach Warren Tang dialing up another line for Canada. Because you're right, they've got limited looks. See what they can produce here.
And a brick's not going to help things there. Not going to help things one bit.
And you allow the offense to set up, kind of halt some of any momentum that you may have generated from your O-line scoring. George Lampron on the mark. Was on Raleigh Durham United last year as they qualified for nationals. Zlatic has the throw, taken away. He was the intended target. Zumbrum on the block. Now can the U.S. counter? They have the shorter field, the red zone right now.
Huge bid. The US now with a break chance.
Green going around. Finding Lampron. Lampron working a little give-go with Green. We see this new type of offense right now, especially in the college game, club game. A lot of dominator set in the end zone. Stack being pushed further back.
Yeah, you're right. This is a really handler-generated kind of offensive set that they've got out here at the moment. The stack well deep, pulling their defenders out of the way of the disc.
Josh Mullen has a disc marked by Bellavance. Reset to Green. Green has throw batted. Almost caught on the second effort. But it'll be taken away by Canada, so they get a reprieve for now on their offensive line. That was their first turnover on offense. I mean, they've only had 2 opportunities. Zlatic has Bellavance open. We'll hit him. A lot of players around the disc. Eventually, Zlatic will receive it. Canada with the rock here. This is an offensive point for them. Bellavance. Inside throw, and having to slide for that one is Mike Lee.
And the US, half a sniff. They got the disc. But some gritty Canada D. Gets it back. Their O-line converts. A dirty hold. But Mike Lee a goal to go along with his assist now. And Canada on the doorstep of taking half.
Green was ushering the offense there on the D-line, but his throw batted away, and perhaps that's going to maybe come back to haunt him a little bit here. I see a great layout block there from Zumbrum, but then it was taken away by the foot of Tim Sang. Look at that view. We, of course, thank you for tuning into this matchup. We got 2 more coming at you, but right now it's the Master Open Final. Canada up 7-3 right now in the U.S., desperately needing a hold. Only had 3 so far with more chances than that. Reset to Inselman. It's a great throw by him to get Saul free. Now Berkowitz. What cutting from Inselman, and he'll get the disc despite the great effort from Powell. He was isolated in space, faked a couple times, and eventually getting the pass there from Berkowitz. That throw almost died a little bit for Powell to make the play.
Yeah, that throw, that catch, that layout, getting both their sideline as well as the fans that are filing in up on their feet. And if you're the US, as we see them waving the flags.
They got the stars and stripes going on.
And if you're the US, as we watch, both teams a live chance, both players a live chance in that, getting around each other. But you need to draw on whatever energy you can. And speaking of energy, Theo, I mean, we talk about the fans in the grandstand. I don't know what move this is. That's not a floss, is it? What is it?
It's definitely not the floss, but the Canadian women's team, they're primed dancing right now.
They're vibing it.
And certainly they are, and certainly the Open team feeling like they could go dancing right now. They're up 7-4, but hey, you know the U.S. has the ability to come back. You cannot rest on your laurels here. They really need to punch in this hold to take half 8-4.
Really strong pull too. Look at this, back middle of the end zone. Perfect pull.
McKnight, so calm and collected, finding Tim Sang. Sang, a World Games player, fresh off an appearance with the Open team. The World Ultimate Champions back in Australia. Bellavance trying to go up. He's going to call a foul on Hartzog.
Don't think it's contested. Yeah, a little bit of contact, uncontested. A few uncontested fouls so far. Great to see some good spirit from both teams.
Zlatic reset to McKnight. McKnight stepping out with the around to Bellavance. Lee was free, and you hear all the Canadian players saying, no, 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 don't throw it. This point is for half. It's a game to 15 for maybe those family members watching. I haven't seen the Great Sport of Ultimate before, so this is a half at 8. McKnight taking a bump on the mark from Matt Thomas, and Thomas has stopped playing now. Number 42 in white.
And I think the discussion will be, as we listen in,
uncontested. Yeah, thank you, John.
Lee up the line to McKnight. McKnight gonna find his target into the end zone.
Here.
That's Joe Bellavance. He's fired up. Canada taking half, 8-4. I don't know if many people before this game started would have predicted that outcome at half.
Yeah, and you'd have to say, I mean, Canada's D-line has been great, but it's the US just giving it away. Mismatch throws, overthrows, foot blocks, things like that. The US O-line just not really gelling as much as they have previously in the tournament. So they might need to think about plan B, plan C.
Certainly the stats favoring Canada, but it's the break chances and the breaks that they were able to take advantage of, especially early on in the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's harsh, but the US would be mortified to see 9 break chances go in. 4
US
of them
only,
converted.
yeah, they've only had 1 break chance, not able to convert here. And Canada at half right now, up 8-4. Halftime scenes here in the gold medal match of the Masters Open Final. Canada up 8-4 on the US, and a dream start here for the Canadians. And we're joined fieldside right now with their assistant coach, Clay Howlett. Clay, we talk about dream starts. 2 breaks to begin the game. What did you see defensively from your team on those first 2 points specifically?
The classic, Theo, we stuck to the plan. We had a lot of time to study what their go-to was. We noticed in our first game that they were getting their up lines that we weren't really challenging. So we decided to clamp down on that and then really expect them to go deep and just protect that house. So far we've executed that plan most of the time. So it's working out for us.
And how do you keep your O-line dialed in? Obviously, you've had it all your own way this first half. They must have loved watching their D-boys go about it, but you know the US is going to come at you and throw some twists and turns. How do you keep that O-line keyed in?
2 ways. One, we have a little bit of crossover, so they are getting some play time on D to keep them fresh. The other way has just been the trust and cohesion that O-line has been building all week. They are not the same O-line they were on day 1. They've worked through a lot. They've learned a lot together. And just the mental strength of our whole team as a group. You know, it happens on both lines, on the O-line and D-line, but everybody's here all the time. It's no question that we're all like just intense and in it.
And with halftime here, what's the messaging for your team right now? You have an 8-4 lead, but we know the propensity for the Americans to come back. So what's the messaging to your squad?
They've all been here before. They've also been in the position of the USA right now. They know exactly what the USA is thinking. They know exactly what it is to maintain a lead. They know what it is, and sometimes to blow a lead. So I think everybody's not shocked that they know what this position is. They know they just have to keep playing their game. Our plan has been executed. It's what we've wanted. We've done everything we've wanted to do. So really, it's just start this new half in the exact same way. And if they get a few points back, we're just going to keep investing in what we've done. We are building that money in the bank and stopping them on these D points, or at least making their O-line run. We're just going to keep doing it.
Sounds good, Clay. We'll let you get back to your team as you discuss things at half here. Wish you the best of luck in the second half.
Thanks, guys.
Clay Howlett, assistant coach with the team, bringing in some experience with his time in Victoria, British Columbia, coaching some different teams like Happy Campers out there. See a little family aspect of this game, which is pretty fun. And throughout this tournament as well, right? In the Masters division, you got Grandmasters, Great Grandmasters, a lot of family at this tournament.
Yeah, I'm not sure the little fella out there is quite of Masters age just yet, but we'll get him there, don't you worry. See the fans as well, still dancing, having a good time. The Canadian women's team in action not too far from now. And Theo, we spoke about it, Canada getting the jump on them. Despite some great defensive efforts, Brett Mazuka getting horror.
I mean, Zajic doing the same thing on the other
right
end.
Back at him. I think that was the same point.
Yeah. And then he threw that. That was that point where Zajic kind of took over. You remarked about that during the game, that he just took over there, especially with that throw.
So if you were the US, what would you change?
That's usually a question I reserve for you, but I'll take the question. I'll take it. I think they have to run things a little bit through a couple other players. Like Brett Matsuka has crossed over. He's done a great job there. And Josh Mullen, one of the captains, he's hearing me talk about what they should do. But let's ask him what he thinks the U.S. should do here in the second half.
Yeah, we'll make a couple defensive adjustments, and we'll make a couple offensive adjustments. Canada came out and punched us in the mouth. They're doing a really good job of decoupling our handlers from our cutters, and our stack is getting too deep. Expect us to do a couple more plays where we get the disc more in the middle of the field and attack the unders a bit more. Defensively, they're very comfortable with working big chunkers on the sideline. Expect flatter marks and a little bit more junk. We still have a few more surprises in store, but we're in a battle. We're a couple boys from North Carolina, and that's all we know to do. So that's our game plan.
And you talk about that junk. What's the strategy going to be? Usually these zones to date have been a bit more containy. You guys are in a bit of a hole. Sorry. Are we going to see something more aggressive?
So I think to just start off, we're just going to try to just take them out of their game plan. And then after we get a couple breaks back, we're going to start to slow it down a little bit with a look and then smash them in the mouth again.
And that seems to be the messaging that you had. So we'll let you go just because your team is huddling up.
Yep.
We'll let you get back to your squad and wish you the best of luck in the second half.
Thank you.
And Theo, I'm really glad to hear that they are going to throw a bit of a junk look at the moment. Yes, their O-line's not really working, but the D-line, they've got to come out, fire up for this second half.
They're going to try to come out fired up, as you said, because they're down 8-4 at halftime. Second half action on its way here. Fans getting loud. It's Canada up 8-4. So a surprising start to some. You know, I'm sure the Canadian fans in the audience said they expected this, but right now the U.S. dug themselves a bit of a hole as we talked about the halftime interview with Josh Mullen. We thank Josh and Clay, of course, for coming in and giving their insights at halftime. So Rico Johnson now switching to the green gloves. I am accurate on that with the pull. McKnight. Gonna be marked by Matsuka. I like that handler matchup. Johnson gonna work against Latic. Will this halftime pause kind of stop Canada's momentum or just keep it going? That's gonna be the question.
I mean, they've already got it up to their attacking brick mark without too much pressure, and again, the swing let out.
Hardsog maybe could have left the feet and got a block, but he'll stay on and put a mark on instead. Zlatic laying out to save that one. Like that he paused and decided not to throw it right away. Sometimes you see players make a big layout, then throw it away.
Yeah, Brady did it earlier this game.
Just with the adrenaline, right? You got the adrenaline going. Safe around to McKnight. End zone set here.
Stack's still pretty deep. They're back almost at midfield now and still the deepest stack back of the end zone.
Ellis two hands here as this is an offensive point for the red and white. Zlatic with a break around throw. Is it going to be caught by Edwards? There is a game advisor right close to the action, and we got a camera.
Cretella straight away was convinced, and he's coming in now. Yep, and it is going to be a turn. And they're going to run it up.
Aaron Saylor with it. What's all? Matsuka cutting so hard he lost his hat. Fighting Cretella. Cretella has the throws, but no one going downfield. Johnson has Saylor, but instead he's going to look underneath. Finding Shane Cisco. Can the U.S. get it off this sideline here? They'll try with the hammer. You know Matsuka's got those throws. This is a break chance, and certainly if you're the U.S., you need one coming out of half. Talked about some different looks they want to provide, so trying to enforce that right now. Green, give and go with Hartzog, but a call.
Yeah, and a massive chance for the US here, taking a break straight out of half. They've got the disc off the Canadian O-line. Great statement of intent to put this in if they can.
Now you heard some of the members of the US sideline saying, with your legs, Tristan, not your throws. They're convinced that he can work it up in the upline space, and you see him getting some give and go. Hartzog. Cretella coming to the front. I'm certain he's going to call a foul here on Edwards. Edwards, a little reenactment.
Very animated reenactment at that.
That's my favorite part.
The live replay?
Well, the reenactments, yeah.
I did this and then you did this. I think it's going back. All right. Definitely contact. Wolfdorf rules. You can't initiate contact to get the D before, during, or after.
Hartzog around to Matsuka. Matsuka thought about the hammer. Things getting a little physical down there on the showcase field.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised. I think the hands are coming out a bit. I think there's been that typical North American physicality, and that's fine. But when the arms come out and you're kind of using your arms to body them, that's when I think fouls are fair enough to be called.
Matsuka looked around right away, finding Cretella. Inside to Hartzog, not in just yet. Big bump on the mark from McKnight.
No arms about that one. He just ran right through him.
I don't think you're going to contest that one if you're McKnight. You hear them saying, hold the door. Can they do it? They're going to close the door right here on a break chance. That's their hope. This is potentially tricky territory, but Matsuka gets a reset. No step backhand to Johnson. About 10 yards away are the Americans.
Great discipline you can see from the American stack as we see the break shot go. Lucky break, they got it.
Johnson finding Shane Cisco. Cisco, part of ring teams that made multiple semifinals. Listed as a coach when Ring won a title in 2021. Club title, that is. Johnson, in his own right, has been involved in multiple club teams, and he's the one who threw that pass. As Canada, the first time they've been broken in this game.
And a big momentum gainer for the US. They'd only had one chance at a break prior to that. They didn't put it in, and as you say, they've got their first break now. 5-8, breaking Canada immediately out of half. As we see, that was the contested up call. Sorry, uncontested down call. And this one, two at it. Getting a little bit lucky. Zlatic had a bid. Almost pulled out because of his teammate. And that's what gave the United States their first break of the game.
Slow-mo vid really adds something. I will confess I watched the Mike Tyson Paul fight last night, and the slow-mos in the boxing match were really exciting.
It was like they were boxing in slow-mo, mate.
I hear you. But the slow-mo really adds some cinematic additions to it.
It does. And the US are running a match, but there are a lot of switches. There's a tiny bit of junk about it, but Canada not bothered, already at midfield.
Dag going deep, out on this offensive point. Good box out from number 49, Felix Antoine Dag.
And Matsuka can do a lot of things, but getting tall, maybe one of the things he's not as amazing at. Probably 45 kilos dripping wet. I don't know what that is in the...
Hey, you're going kilos. I only know pounds, so you're going to have to convert that for us.
Yeah. It's light. There's not a lot of bready.
Felix Antoine Dag celebrating here. Quebec-based player. There's a few of those on the squad, and we talked about it, how Canada has to mesh in players from different, not just areas of the country, it's also playing styles. You can maybe give us some insight into your country there of Australia. Are there different playing styles depending where you are? Because in Canada, certainly there is. In the West Coast, Quebec, kind of more Ontario, and even East Coast, there's some different styles.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in Australia, obviously a very expansive country as well. You only play against what are now your teammates a couple times a year. And you've got it right through from being really clinical, quite not sterile, but, very organised, right through to just run around and catch the disc in the box. So a real array of playing styles, as you say.
Whereas on this U.S. side, of some of them have played for North Carolina and, of course, Ring of Fire, so similar offensive sets that they brought into Boneyard, which is the club-based team representing this country. Hibbert drawing the Cortella matchup here in Mensa on La Violette.
It's good matchups, aren't they?
Take it around to Howie. Now back in the hands of La Violette. I want to see when they decide to cross him over the D line. Try to add some more offensive firepower as well. Same thing with Noah Saul, who had played a lot of defensive line for Ring of Fire in the past, but miscommunication with Cortella and Inselman.
That's 2 or 3 miscommunications, throws to someone that wasn't there or throws behind.
Burden had the mark of Cortella right in his grill. Screw bring out to Hibbert. Howe finding Hohalter.
Cuts have dried up a little bit now. Canada not finding it as easy. But again, Theo, I think if you're the Canadian D team, you just keep their O-line, the opponent's O-line out on the pitch. It's a win.
You've built that comfortable lead, so even if you don't get the break, you're right, you're just body blowing the other team.
It's pressure over not just inner point, but across the points. We see the big break shot go.
Hohalter airing this one out, and Howie will sky the pile for the block and immediately tap it in.
It's a real let-off for the US there. Awful throw.
Saul airing this one out for Laviolette. Howe trying to provide some coverage, but it's batted into the hands of Inselman. Inselman will then find Laviolette for the score, and Howe frustrated with himself as the US gets their 6th point.
Yeah, and if you're Canada, you want to keep the energy and the momentum and the positivity up. But that was a chance gone begging. They had it all their own way. There was absolutely no need to send that throw. I think it was a 4-on-2 or a 3-on-1. But if you're Canada, keep the positivity up. You're 9-6 up. They could have been. But I mean, what a change, right? 9-6 versus 10-5.
Absolutely. Saw that miscue with Cortella. But they were able to get it back. This throw, a sky ball, and certainly if you're the Canada D team, you kind of want that back.
It's a lovely put.
Inselman was on the American team that won in 2016 at this tournament. There was no tournament in 2020, so that's why we're going throwback with the statistics for you. Canada won a title in the Masters Open Division in 2012 out in Japan. That was when, yeah, that was a big tournament back then in Sakai.
And the US are switching it up here, Theo. This is their, I think, their first genuine zone look of the match.
Taylor Pope now on the mark, big number 9 in white. Trying to make that around difficult, but it's still successful to Loach. Can the Canada offense be patient here? Matsuka at the bottom of that diamond here, number 45, thought about the bid, gonna let up. Popped up throw. It's Canada out on the move here. Loach has a teammate free. That's Andrew Carroll.
And the Canada O-line doing what they need to do. Their job is very, very simple there. It's just score. That's it. Hold it. Be calm. They've got a little bit of buffer. It allows them to play with a bit of freedom. But I'd also say I don't mind that look from the US. They told us they were going to play a few junks. Yes, it didn't work on that opportunity, but I'd keep rolling with it. They've got to change something, because if you don't change anything, nothing changes.
So would you consider, I know they got scored on, but would you consider that a win because they tried a different look and made them throw a few more passes?
I'd consider it a step in the right direction. The reason that kind of flow came, their short deep got sucked in, it allowed the movement through the middle. Okay, fine. That's a mistake you can adjust for that. If I was the US, I'd definitely be running that again. Nice pull.
Dang swooping in on the mark, coming through for the block. What a heads-up play. Now Bryce Ring. We saw a miscommunication turnover earlier from the U.S. where it was just a turf. That one, not sure what happened on the pole play. Felix Antoine Daigle now working against Bowen. Powell finding Hibbert into the end zone, but hold tight because there's some discussion.
Now we disagree, so it's terrible. I don't think you're right. I think your foot is still down. Well, I mean, they're so slow. That's fine. Here's looking right. That's fine. Yeah.
So the discussion on the field is about whether the play was in the end zone, whether Hibbert was in the end zone when he caught it. They've agreed that he's not, so he's going to have to throw the goal. Oh, they're going to watch it here. I haven't seen that before, so we don't have live replays a lot. Half the team celebrated a goal, the other team said you're not in.
We're all looking at the screen now.
In Wooftuff, we do have game advisors. I don't know if that's been called on. And eventually, we've arrived at an outcome, and the outcome is a goal.
Hibbert is pumped up here. Multiple-time national team member, going to be a U24 head coach in the 2025 cycle for Canada in the Open Division. Winking to the camera, celebrating. They got a 5-point lead, so of course they're feeling good. That was unfortunate for the U.S. if you're an American fan, because that was an immediate turnover there. Felix Antoine Daigle coming in for the block off the pole collection.
Yeah, I mean, things just going from bad to worse for the US. I mean, you just do not see from US teams errors on pull receptions. It's a mental game right now. It's a mental battle for the US as much as anything. See, just standing. Yep.
Sometimes it's too casual, right? You've done it so many times a pole collect, but you got to watch that defender coming in. Sometimes the person receiving the pole can hide by mistake the person who's coming in.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, there's a mental element to that. As I said before, I think it's a mental battle as much as anything right now for the US.
Let's go, boys!
Nice pull.
Saul now, instead of collecting it, he's going to be centered the disc. Cretella. Saw a little inside shot. Now it's Howie. Free Inselman is going deep. That was Laviolette on the under. Howie receiving the disc across the field from Laviolette. When they're forcing backhand like that, we often see those quick little inside step out backhand shots that allow that handler to kind of throw and go, and Laviolette happy to oblige there with that maneuver.
Yeah, as much as things aren't going to plan for the US, one thing they are exploiting really well is that break side. Good discipline from the stack and nice throws around.
Berkowitz finding Saul. Saul eventually hitting Inselman for the grab. Inselman's second goal of the game.
And the US energy at the moment, I don't think it's there. I mean, yes, okay, it's an offensive hold, but you want to see the team storming the field, getting around, G'ing up their D-line. They've got to get multiple breaks to get back in this game, and right now, the energy's not suggesting that that's there.
Do you feel like one break, maybe if they can get another one, because they got one out of half, certainly that might help. They, of course, bled one on the previous point, so their deficit is the way it is. But you're right, the energy looks quite low. It's not looking like a team that really feels that fire in the belly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on. You got to break out a half. You couldn't have scripted a better comeback. But unfortunately, gave it away again. So it did reset that deficit to the same as half time.
Still, like, if you thought it was in, I was still, like you were feeling, expecting him to have signal, but I guess he only signals if, like,
You see Hibbert just talking it over. I think they're still talking about that out call or that goal call.
Matt Wilson calling a foul on Greg Ellis, it looks like.
So I think there was a discussion about some contact coming out of the cut, so that's why the disc is going to go back. The Canadians not thrilled about it, Theo.
Kind of halts a bit of that momentum here.
Yeah, and it was a gainer to the break side, so I get why. So pick in the stack.
McKnight break side throw, could have been a little bit dangerous with Matsuka on the hunt for another block. Sang has Bellavance going deep. Jumping quite high was Bellavance, but good pressure there from Hartzog.
Yeah, you're spot on. That was the inferred pressure. Down in Australia, I don't know if you have it, we call it a phantom D. You're not going to get the stat, but went nice and early. But probably recorded as a drop. Had a solid mid on it.
Matt Wilson, the southpaw, finding Aaron Saylor. Everything underneath right now for the Americans. Cisco thought about airing it out, but maybe going safe underneath, but there was a pick.
You are in a boxing mood. The southpaw. I've not heard a Frisbee player call it a southpaw.
Hey, when a Canadian's working with an Australian here, there's going to be different terms that we bring out. I don't hear pitch too often. I hear field. So, or nil. You said nil earlier.
Yep.
Let's go, Mike. Yeah, Mike. Under. Yeah, go.
That'll be a pick. Brady without a dump. Matsuka not having a dump, so they're going to talk over the pick off the front of the stack.
Surprised a handler like Tristan Green isn't on the field because he's done a lot on the D-line, but maybe they're saving him for the next point. Saylor. Hartzog. Making Bellavance fall to the ground and then reversing the angles by bringing it to the middle of the field. They continue it to the far side there to Michael Panna.
Good dump, D.
They're frustrating a lot of these American throwers here. Hartzog looking for Cisco. That will work out. A shot on a line. And that's the energy we're talking about. Look how fired up Shane Cisco is right now on that break.
And it's good. It's exactly what the US needed. Cisco's up and about. He needs his team to do more of the same.
Sometimes it just takes that one score. You, as a basketball player, a hooper, you see the ball in the net just once and it makes you, gives you that energy. Maybe that will happen for the Americans here. Hardside putting this one out kind of on a rope.
Yeah. Saw the pump
Cisco,
fake go,
yeah.
and then thought, you know what, that's good enough to send. So, well done from the US. And if you're the US D line, you've got 2 breaks in this half, you know, so you didn't get a single one. You see Herzog with 2 assists to go along with that goal.
So without a traditional coach, you can see Josh Mellon helping call the lines. That's more that old school way, right? A captain goes up, just starts counting on the fingers who he wants to go on. You can see that right there.
Yeah, it'd be a brave soul for someone that wanted to coach a Masters team. I don't envy any of the coaches.
Why do you say that, Andy?
What did our coach say? It was great to work with a bunch of man-children for a week.
Canada calling the timeout there. We've gotten confirmation of that. And certainly it makes sense. They just got broken. There's a lot of momentum riding into the U.S. favor. They got the flags waving out in the stands. And Cisco brings some of that fire here. Let's take a look at who the U.S. has out on the field on this defensive point. A monumental or a critical one out of half. Matsuka still on the field. Cisco as well. Cretella, we got Tristan Green, Hartzog, Zumbrum, Johnson. Your 7 on the line. So they've really added those big time players out on the field.
Johnson repping some pretty fierce shades. As we see the Canadian O-line offside, not called.
Same offensive line here. Well, they run a little 10-11 deep, so perhaps some movement on the line, but now with disc in the hands of McKnight. Dag, who's been playing both ways. Finding Zatic. Sang working against Green. Carroll churning yards here, working against Zumbrum. Great dump defense from Matsuka, and then Johnson punctuates it with a hand block. U.S. got to be relaxed here. You know, Matsuka is looking for some over the tops, but resets it to Green. Green thought about the cross field, but will do a safe reset to Matsuka. Green now. Big bump on the mark from Sang. Green grinding right now as a handler on this D-line point. Green up the line, and he'll catch it. We're within 2.
Back-to-back breaks for the US. They knew that they were going to come. The Canadians knew that they were going to come, and they have arrived. And now, Theo, you can feel a little bit more of that energy that we were calling for early in the point. The Americans getting around their teammates, getting up and about. We have a game.
Green and Matsuka doing so well, working that give and go. You see Sang calling himself off there. And very curious now to see who Canada decides to dial up, because they did just get broken, as you mentioned, a second time in a row. It was 11-6, a clean hold from the Americans, 2 consecutive breaks. We got an 11-9 scoreline. Johnson with the hand block, the catalyst. Let's take a look.
Wow.
So the left hand of the law right there with the green gloves.
You're big on these gloves, aren't you?
He's got a style. Those are actually football gloves. I've asked him during the tournament. Those are not ultimate gloves. They're football gloves. He likes them, and it helps him get a block.
I don't have a view on the gloves, but I like the shades. I like his, we call them speed dealers down in Australia. I won't tell you why. But I'm sure he's a lovely man.
Matsuka, he's I feel like he's not going to come off the field on the deep point now.
No, you're going to have to drag
Johnson
him
out
off.
there too.
Yep.
Taylor Pope out on the field. See a couple subs, but Zumbrum also remains there.
Looks like a junk, I think. It will be.
Hohalter's mostly play D-line is out on the field. Same thing with Burden. Bellavance finding Lee. Now into the hands of Burden. Canada out on the run here. Bellavance left hand. He was pretty casual with that catch, and then he'll find Carroll. So the U.S. were oh so close, but Bellavance saves it.
Yeah, and the US running a very short transition jump. So a transition is where you might start by playing a zone where you're marking a space rather than a player, but then in the point you will switch to playing on a one-on-one matchup. And what it's designed to do is kind of force the offense to adjust, maybe throw a throw they wouldn't, not see angles or defenders that they usually would, and it almost generated a turn there, Theo. Wow. Bellavance looking pretty casual about that grab, but it may have been a game-saving grab at that.
Hart maybe skipped a beat there, but
yeah,
he still caught it with. You're right. He was quite casual with the left hand, just stuck out the mitt and caught it. So now it goes without saying, but it's must hold for the U.S. Any break now, I think there might be curtains for the Americans here.
Yeah, it's a huge point in the context of this game.
See the time ticking down to less than 15 minutes.
Man, we like it low.
See if this is a game to 15 depending on how the points end up. We'll keep you posted on that. Snoke finds Casey Mensah. Was hunting for a block. Snoke putting this one. And Easy does it, finding Cretella for the grab.
How is that? Beautiful put. Jogged onto it, basically. Isolated, one cutter deep. We probably haven't seen a lot of the US deep game. You know, and I think they'd do well to incorporate that a little bit more. Their long shots, especially when you can throw like that. Why wouldn't you have at it? And it will be interesting, Theo, to see which kind of defense the US throw. We saw the transition. It got half a sniff, but again, it was probably unforced. But conditions continue to be absolutely still. Perfect day for Ultimate. And that's what brings out throws like this. Lovely backhand huck, uncontested.
Matsuka and the rest of this D-line hungry. They're showing us some signs of emotion in the huddle, as they know they can bring this game within one. Johnson set to pull. Big backhand rip as we're underway for a quite critical point here. McKnight looking for Zlatić, who's being guarded by Saylor. Sang. Nice safe around to Bellavance. Zlatić hovering in the deep space. Just in the hands of Mike Lee. Zlatić just come underneath now. Canada out in the red zone now. The opposing brick. Lee has Carroll going into the open side, and Carroll will find his way there, but there was a travel called by Michael Panna.
And again, players with the live action replay. This is what you did. Well, I thought I did this.
Yes, it was a huge travel on the video.
Yeah, I can see why. I can see why. I
Little back
understand.
foot drag?
Yeah.
So this will allow the Americans to set up their open side defense because whoever was marking Kale kind of toasted, got toasted to the open side. Certainly they have a chance now with Hartzog kind of in that lane.
Yeah, Hartzog took that switch and it saved the US.
High stall situation, got out of trouble for now. Lee, almost there was Green, and eventually Sang will find McKnight. Big offensive point for the Canadians. They're fired up. You see the energy switch a little bit.
Yeah, Canada can sniff it now. They are 2 points away. And the US simply running out of opportunities to get more stops. Their defense can be prouder of, I think, how they played in this second half. They generated multiple turns, multiple breaks, more than what they had in the first half. But this point, a massive one in the context of the game.
Tim Sang attending university at McGill, so maybe some McGill players watching in the audience, the McGill Ultimate team. Showing Tim Sang some love. He was on the 2016 Open team as well, the World Ultimate Championships. Snoke. Vertical stack set here from the Americans. Laviolette, the first cut. Snoke airing this one out. This one's gonna hang a little bit, but two hands strong from Pannoni.
Pannoni trying to get his team up and about, urging his teammates to come on the field. He's having a feed, he's enjoying it, he's having a little snacky snack. And now it's just a not negotiable. The US must come out and get a stop. I like the fact they're exploiting that deep game a bit more. That's going to help them on O. But really the question that they need to answer is we see a lot of space being given deep. That one's going every day of the week. Set up a little bit, but always to the thrower's advantage, to the receiver's advantage. Love to see it. As we said, not a lick of wind to speak of. Perfect conditions for Ultimate. So you can send deep shots like that and watch them get pulled down from your man Pannoni every day of the week.
Snoke, a welcome addition to this line after not appearing in that first matchup against the Canadians when the US were victorious 15-14 in pool play. Gives a lot of dimension to their offense. You see him opening up with 2 assists, but also just some of his throws and calmness in the backfield. Sunny skies here in Irvine. You can't ask for better weather. I'm going to quote Andy here, not a lick of wind to speak of, and just a thrower's paradise right now.
You still won't get me up on that big balloon or whatever it's called, the big... they take people up on that for $10.
I will not be up there.
Absolutely.
Maybe we get a camera up there to really get the view.
Oh.
That'd be fun. Well, this pole just out of bounds, mere inches away, and now look at the momentum kind of suck out of that because now the Canadians can move up, set up their offense.
I mean, it is the difference. Yeah, exactly. Taking it from the back of the end zone instead, 3 meters or inches or yards.
Matsuka allowing Bellavance to get on the open side. Perhaps their defensive strategy here. Hartzog working against McKnight. I think McKnight is going to call an injury here. Formerly from Toronto, now living out in the East Coast. Halifax, Nova Scotia. Perhaps some of those people watching at home. And they bring in Felix-Antoine Daigle. Daigle now with the disc. Great pressure from Green on Sang. Tighter reset defense.
Here we
Big
go.
miscommunication. Matsuka finds Green. Green pops it into Johnson, but there's going to be a call. Sometimes the D-line offense running too fast.
And you're reaching. I almost couldn't avoid contact. I wasn't even trying to commit to you. I didn't work, but I felt the contact. Let's throw it back.
There might be multiple foul calls.
Were you right
here.
on the sideline? Was any of our guys on the sideline? Oh, I see. I mean, that's how I felt.
Hey, let's go! Hey, let's go! Home! Home! Flat to start!
3, 2, 1.
Disc will stay in the hands of Tristan Green. Green going with the hammer, and it's going to be caught for the score. Shane Cisco again, he's bringing the energy right now, and we have a 1-point game.
The US back in it. Green, I don't know if he's got like a Hessian sack on his neck or something. I don't know how functional that is, but he's getting the job done. What is that?
Might be I think it's a bandana of some sort.
I think it's like a serviette. Do you guys say serviette? Like a napkin?
We say napkin. We say napkin.
Napkin, right.
That's not really what we would say. We wouldn't say serviette, but I get it.
It's too. I often get called too cultured. Yeah. It's too fine a word, but nice work with the hammer. Nice aggressive play from the US. I mean, you talked about Brady Matsuka running that aggressive D on the turn. And the US have really ramped up those breaks. Only 0 from 1 in the first half. Now 4 of 5. Massive turnaround. The D really rolling now.
Well, even in the halftime interview, Josh Mullen, for being down 8-4, was quite calm, eh?
Yeah.
Like he had a quiet sense of confidence to him.
Yeah. I noticed in his language, he was, when we get the breaks, right? And it wasn't an arrogant thing. It was just a belief thing. And wouldn't you know it, his team's here. My mate Shades, big pull, Johnson.
Felix-Antoine Daigle going to be the center handler here. Carroll coming out of the stack on a classic pull play, front of the stack going break side and deep. More pressure. Bellavance is going to get that one, and I don't think Matsuka is going to contest the foul there.
I think Matsuka's called the foul. Oh no, you're right, sorry. Uncontested foul.
Cisco back out on the field. Green, Kratella, Johnson, Hartzog, Zumbrum, and Matsuka, your 7 on the D-line. Trying to tie up this contest. Strap yourselves in. We got a great finish coming. Loach. Ooh. Some pressure from Kratella, but he absorbs it and takes it. Keeps the disc moving for the Canadians. Bellavance. Finding Lee.
Stay with him, Rico. Touch the jersey. Stay with him, some. This side, this side. Goes up, goes up.
Carroll going around to Sang. As the defense chants start up from the American fans in the audience. Trying to drum up a break here to tie up this contest. Carroll inside to Sang. Carroll and Johnson got tangled up here. Looking like they're force switching, maybe perhaps the US going force middle here.
Yeah, I like it. It's creating a lot of pressure around the dump, around the disc. If you're Canada, just take an extra second. The US are hunting blocks. Take an extra second, let the cut develop, because right now they're going to hunt a layout bid.
Daigle finding Sang. Inbounds. Zipping in the flick. Hartzog almost there, but Sang will find Daigle.
That was it. They were hunting that D. They were hunting that layout inches away. And speaking of inches away, Canada knocking on the door of being the world champions. 14-12. The US O-line hasn't been convincing today, but this is simply a non-negotiable. Get out, score, put your D-line on for a big run, try and get it to Universe.
Yeah, you're hoping for kind of a quick score, maybe a timeout after that, and then we'll see what kind of line they put out here. That's sort of the recipe that they're perhaps trying to draw up. Canada has won an Open Masters title all the way back in 2012. The US were successful in 2016. Of course, a new personnel here. Most of these players not being Masters eligible back in 2012. Hohalter set to pull here.
And the US O-line has been more reliable, more stable, also generating some more deep shots. But really, the story of the game there is that just getting jumped at the start. You know, going a few breaks down early on. They simply must stabilise here, get their D unit back on the field.
Cortella. Pick called here. Hibbert providing a very long mark here. Saul. Looking for Howie, but Powell layout blocking. He's going to be worse for wear. What an athletic play, but he looks like he's going to take an injury sub.
It's a huge bid, huge play. I think he copped a knock on the back of the head after the bid. But you know what? If that's your last point at Worlds, what a way to stamp it. Canada are at their brick mark on the brink of becoming world champions. We see the big block, got the inside line. No contact. I think minimal after the play, nothing intentional.
Bowmanville, Ontario's finest. Powell making a big block.
Taking in the big ones as well on the sideline.
Yeah. Ellis coming on the field, and Matsuka also coming in for Snoke. Perhaps to provide some defensive pressure. Little 4-5 versus 4-5 matchup right now as Canada knocking on the door of a world title. Zlatic. Working with Hohalter. Play will stop right now. To a pick. This is a break chance and championship gold medal point here for the Canadians. Ellis thought about the hammer for the win. Going to be calm with it though. Zlatic. Back to Ellis. Working to the break side, but can't get something downfield. Hibbert trying to stay in. Lots of players saying he's out.
Yeah. So he tried to toe the line. I think lucky for Hibbert, he was already down before he jumped. So it wouldn't have been a goal, but it's not out. Disc is in the hand, his foot's still on the ground. So Hibbert gets a break there because had he caught it in the air, that would have been out of bounds.
Hibbert, so close to a title. Zlatic, faking the push pass. Hohalter. Hohalter going to the far side. Too far for Hibbert.
How's faking a push pass for the gold medal?
Tension's quite high here. Laviolette, unmarked by Nielsen. No one going deep though.
So static in the stack. Oh, and they're going to call a travel on that first throw.
Oh, all the way back there.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Saul and Mensah having some discussions.
Look, it's probably just a cranky old master talking, but I'm not huge on those calls, right? Like, what advantage did it, you know? There's a time and place for travels, and there's also, what is it, letter of the law, spirit of the law. But anyway, they've worked it out. But at least the US get a chance to reset what was a pretty stagnant offense.
Matsuka continuing things over to Laviolette. Laviolette has Pannoni going deep. What a throw from Laviolette, finding Michael Pannoni as he celebrates, bringing the score within 1.
And the Canadian D-line left to ponder what might have been. They had a shot into the end zone, just wide. Hibbert seemingly involved in everything. Not able to do that, so it will be their O-line from here on out. So see, they're getting the opportunity to score the goal thanks to a huge bid. Full horror. Let me see here, the really contentious in. Tried to basically towed himself out. And then ultimately the turn. Too far. And as I said before, they're like the US really starting to exploit their deep game a little bit more, using their legs. A lot of their deep shots have been borderline uncontested. Really enjoy them bringing a bit more of that deep show.
Looking at all the fans here as US taking a timeout, and hey, we're hoping for another Universe point game because that's what we saw in pool play on Wednesday. Howie finding Jared Bowen, who had to lay out for the score on Universe. Jared Bowen is going to seal the game for the US. So the US hoping for some of that magic. Canada hoping to rewrite the script here. They're currently on offense. Last time it was the Americans on offense here. Johnson set to pull once again for the Americans. Who are they going to dial up on this D-line here? Hartzog is out there. Zumbrum, Tristan Green, Matsuka, of course, Kratella. As they're looking to force Universe point in this contest. Johnson with the pull. Kratella working against Carroll. Carroll coming underneath. Now it's Degg finding Lee. Canada out fast moving here on their offense. Degg going around looking for Edwards. Edwards stays in bounds. Loach. Great grab from Sang to keep it alive. Sang going around, finding Bellavance. And it's ruled a goal. Canada's red, white, and golden here in California. They are the Masters Open champions. They defeat the US 15-13.
An absolute elation from the Canadians. They overcame a tough pool play loss. Hold on.
We might have to hold off some celebrations, maybe wipe the graphic off the screen because there's some discussion here.
That's a turn. That's a turn. That's a straddle. So the rules of Ultimate is that your last point of contact is what you are. So if you are out of bounds and then caught it inbounds, you're still out of bounds until you establish a pivot inbounds. So I think the US are well within their rights to at least be questioning this. We'll see it really. So there, he's out of bounds now. He's out of bounds. That's a turnover. I think.
Alan, ready to be heads up.
That's perspective. Yeah. Well, he's providing perspective, so it's up to them to take it or not. It's not binding, so yeah. This is taking forever. If there's a call, it should go back. It should go back. They don't agree on that. They don't agree.
So I don't think the game advisor's got a perspective. We do have a screen. We've got an advisor up here. It looks like a turnover from here. It is a straddle.
The American
crowd's
fans shouting out.
Yeah, the crowds know where it's at. Bit of gladiator style.
GA is saying that it's out. I understand. Yeah.
It's contested. I don't know how that's contested. I mean, you've got the benefit of multiple game advisors, a big screen.
He's a neutral party.
It is out.
I'm hearing multiple people saying they can't race the we're not binding. We're coming from a neutral party and we have
Spirit of the game.
So we see it one more time. Okay, so straddle. He's now caught it in the air. His last point was out of bounds, so he would be considered to be out of bounds. Great view of it here. So even though his foot landed in,
we're joined by one of the game advisors, Glenn Ford. Glenn, what did you see there?
I am seeing the same as everybody else saw. He was straddling the line when the disc was thrown. He jumped while straddling the line, which makes him out of bounds. He jumped, caught the disc. His first point of contact was inbounds, but he had not established himself in bounds yet. It would be a turnover. That should not be a goal.
and eventually I think Canada have acquiesced. Maybe not. Hand signal suggests out. And it will be a turn.
Whoa. So the right call is made, it looks like, from our perspective. This is one of the most insane finishes I've ever seen. Spirit of the game. We know that's a big tenet of the sport. And now there's an injury sub. So now the U.S. brings in, who else but Alan Laviolette. Canada going to take off Loach and bring on Jeff Powell, who got a big block earlier.
And is there one more chapter left in this book? Phenomenal.
Is there more magic out here? Woo! All right, U.S. with the disc. This a long discussion, but this is a U.S. D point. Green with it. Gonna be marked by Sang. Green had Matsuka going deep. Now Laviolette. Green.
Flat Timmy, flat Timmy, flat Timmy. Go deep,
Green looking deep. Tag got inside position there on Hartzog.
Sorry. Oh, we're supposed to back here. Should we watch the video and see if there was a foul? Win it. Win it. Win the rep, Joey. Win the rep.
One turnover apiece on this point.
Getting a little bit chippy on the sidelines. Both sidelines obviously up and about, willing their team on.
Bellavance has Edwards. And now we can say it. Canada red, white, and golden as they now are the Masters Open champions, winning 15-13, defeating the Americans in an amazing, amazing contest.
Canada are the Wolfdorf World Master Open champions. Held their nerve, showed some mettle, put it in a couple of times. In a game that was really punctuated by the start. Canadians getting the jump on the US early on, managed to hold that gap, had a couple of breaks. US managed to reel it back, but not enough as we see the turn. Just not to the advantage of Herzog. Lovely up the line to power position. That throw's going. And that is the gold medal for Canada.
It took 2 times, but Canada now world champions, their first title in this division since 2012. Of course, this division didn't happen in 2020. Andy, let's catch our breath here and take a look at the game stats.
Yeah, a lot to take in. But in the end, Canada just getting way too much of the disc. 12 break chances. 5 of them put in, many of those early in the game, got the early advantage, and their O-line showed some mettle to keep that advantage. They knew the US were going to come, they did, but they answered, and they get a gold medal as their reward.
This is going to bring up some questions, of course. I see it in the Discord chat about will the US go into a country model, or they will continue with the club team model? We saw the club team get bested in the Grand Masters Open division by Canada, who had, once, as I said before, traditional, more country-based team. This, of course, very close. Margins very thin here. And we get a great look at this shot. Canada jubilation and the huddle of the US. They fought valiantly here. If you're just maybe tuning in towards the end, they were down a half 8-4.
Yeah, great grit shown by the Americans. They said that they were gonna come. They did. Put in that first break after half, got back-to-back breaks. But it's the Canadians who held their nerve. As you say, Theo, put it in a couple of times. I think good spirit being shown. That disc was out. It was a turn. But it doesn't matter because now they have a gold medal around their necks.
They showed the resolve, as you said. They got a turnover, able to punch it in. And right now we're joined with Joel Bellavance. And Joel, first of all, congratulations, you're a world champion. What is that? I'm saying that to you now. Tell us the first feeling you have.
Oh, it's an unbelievable feeling. I'm so proud of the guys on the team. We worked really hard this year. We just stayed really focused every point, the whole tournament. And hats off to our D-line. Absolutely crushed it all week and saved our legs, definitely. So we felt good this game, and we just knew we had to play clean and play hard, and we could take it.
And we have to ask you, of course, of the final call there. What did you see from your perspective? Ultimately, being called out of bounds. So, what did you see there?
Yeah, I mean, after the goal happened, I didn't hear any calls that it was out of bounds or not. So I thought it was a goal, and we celebrated, and so that's hard to kind of come back to it. But after watching the replay several times, I wasn't sure if I'd kind of like double tapped before I made the catch, but JJ number 80 told me he thought it was out. So yeah, that's the right play to make there, is just to call it out. And I had all the faith and confidence in the world in our guys to get the disc back and get it done. Yeah.
And you spoke about, I guess, needing to reset. I mean, the whole team stormed the field. You pretty much had the gold medal around your neck. Was there any kind of message to the team to say, okay, hey, look, the job's not done?
No message really came out, but we've been working on that all year, really staying focused in the moment, taking a deep breath, and just going on the next play. So yeah, I just had all the faith that we were gonna just go right into defense and get the disc back. Yeah.
Joel, now's a chance for you to say hi to people from the West Coast, East Coast, wherever they are. Give them some love right now as they're supporting you back home as they watch you win a world title.
Yeah, shout out to Barrie, Ontario, to my coach, high school coach, Bowen, Aaron Couture, for teaching me how to play, Curtis Kyle, and then shout out to my family, my mom, Jonah, Renan, Madeline, and Elise, who probably all watching right now. Thanks so much for your love and support, and my partner Zoe. I love you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Joel. Go celebrate with your teammates here. You're a world champion.
Yes.
Well done.
So Canada celebrating their championship here. Andy, you were in the booth for a great one. Walk us through some of your final thoughts.
Yeah, I think the Canadians, as we said at the start of the game, just really came out, jumped the Americans, showed a lot of intent, put in multiple breaks. But I also think the US team, particularly their D-line, can be very proud of the way they rallied, the way that they fought back. As you say, it was an epic one. We were treated to a really special game of Ultimate. Great highlights, individual efforts on both sides. And the Canadians have earned every ounce of that gold medal.
In a highly contested match, we saw Spirit of the Game also on display. And high effort plays from both sides. Canada thought they won the first time, but able to get it the second time around here as we're gonna get a look at that final score. JJ Edwards reeling it in. Canada taking the gold medal in the Masters Open Division, winning 15-13.